annihilation, for lack of a better term. There it is, there's the attempt. Whether he was successful or not, we shall soon find out. Never mind, he has been spawned back into the Shadow Realm. Strategy, yes, is going to be very interesting, not least because, like Mexico, we had last season for the realistic cars, the hard tyre is 2 compounds harder, than the medium tyres. That means while they'll retain their pace very well, that tyre warming at the beginning, and also their initial pace, their initial fire-up is going to be a very big burden. Hence why pretty much every single driver has gone for that soft or the medium tyre. Very interesting to see the comparisons. Of course, the top 3 going for the soft compound tyres, want to maintain that track position. Others playing the long game, like Ricky 03 and that guy Vince. It's all a bit of a cat and mouse here.
100%. And if we remember back to Saudi Arabia a week ago, so we've got an Alpine doing some lawn mowing and some gravel churning coming on the exit of the Fanier chicane. Razin Chai started on the soft tyres. Lolinoba started on the mediums. When we had a late race safety car, Razin had the flexibility to use up one of his good tyres that he had left. He still had a set of medium tyres that he could use, and that effectively won in the race. Lolly had used both of his mediums. He used his set of hard tyres as well. That meant he had to use the softs, which did degrade very quickly. So it is a real balancing act. Starting on tyres, starting on the soft tyres, you do need to keep your wits about you and think about lap 44 in this case.
McLaren have been frantic getting turned into a Beyblade by our pole sitter for this race, but here we are. The final few line up on the grid, and I absolutely concur. But Belgium, what a track this is going to be. There's a Red Bull doing some burnouts and some donuts to appease the crowd. It's not going to do miracles for their tyre wear. Next team at Monic trying to go on for the kill on one of the Haas cars. Now for the McLaren, point and shoot. Never mind, track to beam activated. What are you going to do? There's your strategies according to F125, medium hard or the softer compounds. You be the judge. But now the tension can just begin to creep in.
Just the drivers on the start. 165-metre dash into the braking zone from where Razin Chai is sitting. But you got to think about the rest of the sector. This could be quite the lottery, everybody. What numbers are you picking? We get ready to go racing here in Spa-Francorchamps. 5 lights ahead of the drivers. The gong doesn't go off, but we do go racing with the RB and the Aston Martin leading us down. Tim and Mark already very punchy, trying to find a space, but late under brakes is that guy. Vince slams into the side pod of the former 2-time champ and could get gobbled up by both Ferraris, and Concept 7 trying to make up places too. Razin Chai desperately trying to escape away, but Kareem 17 following him up through Rouge and Radion with the former 2-time champ, the Australian ace, very much in the ballpark as well. Defensive shape thrown by Razin because he knows he's going to be under pressure. The Aston Martin to the outside. Where is Tim and Mark in this battle? Who's braver under brakes? Is Kareem going to get the light of day around the outside? Razin Chai gets his elbows out, and the former Season 5 champion holds off the Season 9 champion. And the pole sitter just about still in the lead. Hold that thought though, because diving down the inside of Rivage we go. Razin Chai still not done with this. Kareem 17 will not let this go as the Aston Martin dices away with the RB, but finally through No Name, Razin keeps him at bay.
Yeah, great racing and respect. Kareem 17 knows just how important that track position is going to be, so he's hounding the diffuser of that V-card, maybe even taking a bit of a nibble out of it. Still pushing the battery into oblivion round the outside. These two are inseparable during this first lap of the Belgian Grand Prix. Kareem thinks he's got it done, but Razin has the momentum around the outside. Then it's Kareem's turn to feel the pain of the suboptimal grip of the outside, but now he can sweep round at Stavelo too and take the lead of the race. Barnstorming battle in Belgium already as the car went spinning. That's Ryan 83 round at the exit of Stavelo 2.
I think he's still going, but he has dropped a long way back. Thankfully, all of his wheels are still on his wagon, unlike they were at this stage last week in Saudi Arabia. But look, a gaggle of cars all over the back of him as they are trying to do one over on his teammate GB, who's under pressure but still trying to fight forward. Razin Chai with an abhorrent run through the bus stop chicane, and Tim Malik says thank you very much and leaves the former Ferrari man to dice and deal with both the Scarlet cars who are very much on his tail.
Yeah, Lolinoba's made up good ground at the start. Fantastic stuff from him. Up 2 places. Looked a bit dicey between himself and Concept as Vince went into the back of Tiamat Marduk. But here we are. The Australian sensation with the first dose of DRS has hardly had to use any battery. The others, he knows, they have been burning the battery. They have been battling brutally. And Tiamat Marduk moves into the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix and Creator Series. And Razin and Kareem run it back. So nice, they're battling twice. Razin comes out on top, and that's going to become an exponential sinking feeling. One Ferrari goes through. Can Ricky 03 displace the Aston Martin driver as well? He's going to try his absolute utmost. Great wheel-to-wheel racing. This is superlative stuff from every single driver. And Ricky 03 moves on through as well.
Count them down, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them taking a chunk out of Kareem 17. Concept fancied it down the inside into Pooh, and I think there was a little bit of contact between himself and the Mercedes at that Gubbins. Through goes the McLaren of Infratic. Grid Jokes as well, helping himself. Buffet driving as from 7th down to 9th goes Concept 7 and can get himself reacquainted with his teammate Chappers. Can't take your eyes off this. Blink and you'll miss his stuff in the opening couple of laps. Tim McMahon from 3rd on the grid. We saw straight away off the line. He looked really, really punchy. Had to bide his time on the opening lap as Cream and Raz were knocking 10 bells out of each other. But he has found himself in the lead of the race. Infratic getting stuck in. Didn't have the best of qualifyings, but he's now got himself firmly inside the top 10, maybe up to P7 as he dices with Grid Jokes down to the bus stop chicane. The Sauber doesn't fancy it. Backs out of that one. And from 12th on the grid, that is now P7 for Fabio.
Great progress so far. Fastest lap, unsurprisingly, for Tiamat Marduk as Brazin Chai tries to follow him hot on his heels. These two will not want to fight whatsoever, particularly if they're looking for a result in this race. Those Ferraris on the mediums, they will just get stronger and stronger as they go on through. Also to highlight, GB, decent start from 19th on the grid. He's up to P14 already. But look at this. 14 cars, nose to tail. Only one of them can be at the forefront, and it's going to be Rasin Chai who takes back that first place here in Belgium. An easy move, academic, into Lacom.
Easy as you like. From TK down in Clipbook Corner, saying that Adam Sanderson saying the hard tyres feel absolutely dreadful. That is what you pointed out, Carl. They are a step harder compared to what they normally would be. Traditionally on the F1 game, the hard tyres are absolutely king, but, and this is the beauty of Spa, with that offset tyre difference, it's going to be a little bit harder to make them fire up in the early stages. That is a beautiful move straight out of the back catalogue of GB68 of the Creator Series. Around the outside of Virage, gets it done into No Name and up into 13.
GB initials of a country. He's putting in an intercontinental performance so far, and it's only been 3 laps. Absolutely searing stuff. It's Tuki, though, that could be on the move, trying to battle Safso into this second sweeping chicane that we have. Safso shuts the door firmly on that opportunity. Again, still those 14 cars remain nose to tail in this race. None of them want to yield. All of them sending absolute cruise missiles at every single corner. No one is safe. Doesn't matter what apex you're at here in the Ardennes Forest.
This is where we're going to see the dicing and the duels, and the sparring continue to go on until we see the strategies diverge when it gets to the first round of stops. Leading duo, remember, both of them on the red striped soft compound tyre. Kareem 17 would be loving if he was up there with them. He was at one stage, but dropping behind the two Ferraris who are running the yellow walled medium tyres means that Kareem's just in a bit of a sticky situation after starting on the front row. GB continuing to get stuck in, by the way, trying to take 12th place off the hands of Tuki into Lassos. I think he might have done it and has. So GB continuing to fire on all cylinders, as is Tiamat Marduk. 2 former winners here. Both of them started on pole before as well, but it is the RB that took it in qualifying. But once again, through goes the white ball back up into the lead of the race.
Both Red Bull affiliated cars dicing and duking it out here in Belgium. It's Concept 7 that tries to look for a manoeuvre. Grid Jokes just braver on the brakes. Those softs will still hold that overall grip advantage for the time being, as our very own Scotty Designs, by the way, makes his way through. No real surprise. Those hard tyres are still going to be a pain to try and fire up and try and get the grip into for at least the first probably 8 or 9 laps compared to those softer compound tyres. Yes, they have the durability, but the pace is just plummeting in comparison. We highlight Mango. It's a Haas line astern for 16th and 17th. Probably not ideal, but regardless, 15 cars almost. Chapper's now getting disjointed in that middle of the pack. Lots of them wanting to try and get away. But in the case of Kareem 70, as you mentioned earlier, yes, you want to have that track position. Yes, you want to fight as much as you can, but just play it patient. It's a long, long race. Lap 4 out of 44. Every apex is an opportunity. Just got to bide your time.
He's had some trials and tribulations at this venue before as well. Both of the previous times he's raced at Spa was very much in the lead fight, but picked up damage at differing stages, confining him to finishes in the lower reaches of the top 10, if not outside of it. And he definitely wants to keep all the bits of carbon fibre glued to his car. That's when it's all over the back of Kareem into the bus stop chicane. Same with Matt 2-on-2, who's very close to the back of Tuki, who has leaked a couple of places after a decent start on the run down into La Source. First real break of the DRS train actually comes with Grid Jokes in 8th, you can see there. Struggling to cling onto the coattails of that lead group of 7, with Chappers a second and a half off the back of his teammate as well.
Well, that makes Concept 7's life much, much easier. But again, run it back, run the rhythm. Razin Chai looking to send Belgium into a crescendo. to send fury from Faenza flowing through the veins of the Red Bull driver, and so he does again. Back into the lead here on lap number 5, as Brandon Miles says, he just can't keep up. They're absolutely rapid. Do you know what? Credit where credit is due. You're remaining within a second still, so don't throw your hat out of the ring just yet, Brandon Miles. There's still every opportunity. Lap number 5, we're also hearing from our resident Ted Kravitz, Mr. TK, that 4 of the top 6 are underfueled. I wonder who one of them is.
Yeah, just trying to think, is there somebody that always underfuels, has titled some of his Creator Series videos as the minimum fuel challenge? We can try and work that one out. Cream 17, by the way, splitting the Ferraris now, had to be on the button because Riccio 3 did briefly fall out of the 1 second window of his teammate. The Aston Martin piling on through and getting back up inside the top 4. Chapman a little bit wide there as Tuki was smelling, sensing the smallest of opportunities to send it down the inside, shoot it down the inside and get up into P12. As it is, he remains in 13th with that 2-on-2, still for company behind Ryan LE3, right at the back of this tertiary chasing DRS train with a little duo of Concept 7 and Gridgers in a bit of clean air to themselves. Look at the battery here, look at the run that Tuki was potentially getting up to the back of Chappers, doesn't want to go for it into Blanchimont corner and maybe a little bit too far back again to dive it down the inside into the bus stop.
All the red light blinking, and red light spells danger for the Williams car, but Tuki just remains behind for the time being. Again, to highlight the scintillating progress that GB has made. Up to P11 already, it's only lap number 6. So he is, like I said, the affinity with the Belgian Grand Prix that he has. He's absolutely flying out there. One of these key details that I just want to highlight, Razin and Tiamat Marduk, I don't think there's going to be an overtake on this particular occasion. They make their way down, the Kemmel straight, 6.5 tenths the gap, and Tiamat Marduk much more interested in sitting behind for the time being. What is interesting though, as I'm just skating around on points of view, I'd be pretty confident that some of these drivers have put their brakes pretty far forward in comparison to what I think they would be, as Tuki shows the nose to the inside at the very last moment. Chapper's not phased though, he remains firm, but a lot of them could be running at about 56% brake bias. They want to protect the rear tyres, particularly if they're on those softs. Traction is paramount here.
100%. Got to be so delicate, haven't you? With the rear tyres, at some point you're going to feel like you're treading on eggshells, but that is the game you have to play. Does Adam Sanson have a bit of front wing damage there? Yes. Missing the left-hand end plate, so that is not a good start, especially considering he said his tyres are feeling absolutely terrible. Maybe we can see what happened, because there were some skirmishes and some bumps and scrapes on the opening lap. Scotty Designs, by the way, I don't know why I said Adam Sanson with front wing damage. It's Scotty with the missing wing. TK with the same initials, of course, as Ted Kravitz. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Well, I will certainly give you my best bet. First point of view that I want to take you through, of course, it had to be that guy Vince. The send down the inside into the source was the one that may feed generations. We're right on board with him here, and you can see just the race start that he got. Keep an eye though, Ricky on his left-hand side, because I believe that's where most of the damage did occur from. He sends the Mercedes down the inside, absolutely misses his braking zone, goes sailing, actually, into the white ball of Tiamat Marduk, and the frustration that you can hear if you go back and watch the clip and go back and watch his replay. He was so self-evident of what he'd just done. It was so accidental, and unfortunately didn't quite pay off the best for him this time around. Another start point of view though, this time Razin Chai. A tale of two cities for some of our drivers, and a tale of two swords edges. Because Razin had an almighty start in towards the first corner, benefiting from that contact with Tiamat Marduk, allowed it to become what was a two-horse race as they ran down up towards Eau Rouge and Radion and up to the top of the Kemmel Straight. He looks dominant from the very start, or look to try and continue that forward as well. There was a moment slightly further forwards, whereas they hit the Kemmel Straight, hit the Lake Holm chicane, tried to go too wide with Grim 7T, but again, the defensive masterclass as Grim sends it down the inside. This stroke of beautiful racing as they go side by side here. Absolutely stunning. They gave each other racing room, and that is what it's all about. Just one final moment before we take you back to that full racing. Ryan 83 didn't have the best of starts, not one to write home about, and this was just a little bit of a moment here as he came through the right-hander in a brief moment, just steps out onto the gravel. Car wants to try and spin around, but fair play to Ryan, does rather well to try and keep it pointing in the correct direction. We'll see it in the next couple of moments. Here we go, just steps out onto the gravel, rear end wants to throw around, and an incredible save from the second Alpine running at the moment. Unfortunately, didn't quite catch what happened to Scotty. We will go and have a look though.
Thank you very much, TK. Yeah, that is really good job there from Ryan. Massive armful of opposite lock going out of the second Stabilo as Cream 17 dancing, ducking, weaving underneath the rear wing of Lonanova. His soft compound tyre still working very nicely as he continues to apply the blowtorch to the lead Ferrari and try and get back on terms with Razin and Tiamat Marduk in the lead. Top 7 still just about in a train of their own, with Concept 7 a further 1.1 seconds back, has got himself ahead of Grid Jokes, who's lost another almost 2 seconds to that group in front. And then it is GB up inside the top 10 for the very first time, disposed of Chappers, disposed of Safso, and we do need to watch for the former Aston Martin man.
I'm almost sad that we can't have clips longer than a minute, because I wish we could have seen the whole of Razin and Kareem's battle. Just excellent racing room and respect the entire way through. There's a Mercedes in the background. I thought it was going for manoeuvres. It's Matt 212 and Chappers. I was looking very, very far in the background then, good grief, but it's Safso and GB. Through goes Safso with a bit of DRS. Matt 212 gets Chappers for P12. Rhinal 83 now staring at the back of Tukey, but pushing to the absolute limit. A brief look at ERS, but it is a very big talking point, the ERS, because at the front of the field, how much battery do you want to use? Razin's in complete control now. He knows as the soft tyres wear out for everybody else behind him, he's just going to get stronger and stronger with less abrasion running through them. The counterbalance, though, is that Lolinoba on those medium tyres is getting stronger and stronger in his own right. Was very close to threatening Tiamat Marduk on the last lap. Is biding his time with the battery, and surely it really is only a matter of time.
Yeah, Ben had a bit of a scruffy middle sector, now 0.8 per second off the back of Razin. This will be a battery recovery lap for GB68, so they're just into the mind of the drivers, how they're thinking about approaching the battery, using it to get past it. You just need to save a little bit. You want to keep it as a bit of a fail-safe, don't you? If you are in a little bit of strife, you do need to dig in a little bit to make sure you don't lose any critical places on the road after a bit of a blunder. That battery usage is definitely there just to keep you in touch with the group in front. Say if you drop out of the 1 second window, that's where the alarm bells start ringing. You do maybe just need to use up a little bit more than you would like to keep yourself in the game for the long term.
Couldn't agree more with you. Lap number 9 of this Belgian race, almost a quarter of the way through, as GB sails wide at La Source. I saw the gap between him and Safso really be chomped at the bit by the RB driver, and that was because of that corner. Another mistake on the brakes. GB still getting used to the equipment, but nonetheless, an impressive drive. Tiamat Marduk, though, not content with sitting behind anymore. With DRS, Lolinoba went for the aggressive send. Ricky goes for the send. Fabio makes contact with the rear right tyre. He's quietly gone about his business, made his way to P6, and now he's about to inherit the P5 position into the top 5. The McLaren man will slot into proceedings, and that is a collected and cool move, taking advantage of the contact between Ricky and Kareem.
Gets past one of his former stablemates, but I think he is a little bit lucky there. That looked like a heavy whack from Ricky into the front wing of that McLaren as they were coming out through the Lake Combe chicane. So if he hasn't got any damage, which cosmetically looks like that McLaren throwing car is still running and riding absolutely perfectly, we'll just be feeling a little bit lucky there, because that very easily could have chipped off part of his front wing and made his life even harder than it needs to be.
I know old man that will know the answer. Our resident man TK, I'm sure he's on the blower right now, just trying to discover that. We have some time penalties raining in. Grid Joke, Scotty Designs, and now Super Noodle Bagel, all picking up time penalties in this race after only 9 laps of proceedings. But this is a good position to be in for the likes of Tiamat Marduk, who's on the radio saying, I think Lolinoba will get us now. I am slower than Razin. I was going to say, surely only a matter of time before the crossover between those mediums and softs come about. Again, power sliding and doing a maximised burnout on the exit is the Australian driver out in front. Rasin Chai, we look behind as Lolinoba just tries to edge closer and closer to prizing away P2 on the road. Still plenty of cars, now 8 cars. Concept 7 has quietly gone about it and has just managed to creep back into DRS. So credit where credit is due, he's made his way back. What opportunities that could open up. But the Italian stallion, he's not content. Could it be a double move potentially if he's feeling really brave? Looks to the outside, but it's Rasin Chai who shuts the door, turns defense into attack, and it's another cool, collected and cutthroat move from the RB driver.
Worked well there though, Razin and Ben, to keep the Ferrari at bay for the time being. Lolly was faced with the prospect of having to try and drive down the grass to get in between at least one of those 2 cars. In the picture-in-picture, you can see there the Haas going around the outside. That is Manga getting past Brandon Miles in the battle for 18th and 19th position. Grid Jokes, by the way, dropped down into last. He has been through the pits. He's made his first stop. He's blinked earlier than everybody else, chucked on a set of the hard compound tyres, which Adam Sanderson has been saying were absolutely dreadful in the first few laps. Through that warm-up, tricky warm-up phase, trying to fire the tyres up as best as you possibly can. Look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the lead group of cars. 3.6 seconds back to GB in ninth, leading the secondary chasing peloton.
Well, GB's found escapes again, back ahead of Safso. That's good news for him. We'll see how Adam's tyres get into their own, there might well be people considering a one-stop today, whether it is the softs to the hards or the mediums to the hards, but they've got to be aware, as Infratic is trying to go round the outside of Blanchimon. Max Verstappen-esque from 2015. Bravery beyond the Call of Duty. He's going to try and get 2 for the price of 1. Kareem 17. Fights some more, and it's going to be a duel, a drag race down towards La Source, which Infratic does concede. He wants all the battery he can have. The more he doesn't make those moves, though, on the soft compound tyre runners ahead, the more it opens up for those waiting in the wings behind.
Big question time. We thought we would be chatting about Lolanobu, 6/10 of a second off the back of Ben, maybe just calling that potential chance. We saw how close he's got on the past couple laps, but it's his teammate that might be on the groove and on the move and in the groove. Terrible phrase to say. Almost 3 wide here behind the leading trio. It's Kareem on the inside. Fabio going through the middle. Is he going to be brave? Ricky gets squeezed down on the outside. It's now Fabio on the outside of the Lecombe chicane. That is absolutely beautiful from the Papaya McLaren car. Kareem 17 with nothing to fight for on those ailing soft tyres. Ricky with nowhere to go. And up into 4th place goes Fabio, charging through the field very, very nicely indeed. Looking menacing at the 3 in front of him now.
Death Kiss takes 2 to tango, and it's a 10 from Craig. A brief yellow flag, as I think it's the McLaren of Tukey having a minor moment into the right-hander before No Name, but he's okay. He's on his merry way. Ryan L83 has dropped behind Adam Sanderson as well in all of this. He could well have had a moment too. Still, Lolanoba, like you say, we thought we were going to be talking about him. Now half a second behind Tiamat Marduk, and could well be on the move and in the groove. As Uncfratic says, let's go. Well, quite right. Absolutely, let's go. Transferring up into P4. For a moment was outside of the DRS. Has to do well to stay in it, though. He is just falling short at the moment.
122 race starts for Fabio in the Creator Series. Most experienced driver still yet to stand atop the podium. 5 podium finishes, no wins as yet. Things looking pretty good in these early stages. Only a quarter of the way through the Belgian Grand Prix. Kareem goes incredibly deep into the bus stop chicane. Clearly striking his attack guy, Vince, by the way. Baines Adjure at the back of them, and a big gaggle of cars following him into the pit lane. GB and Safso to start them off. I think there was a Williams going in with them as well. That was a big error there from Kareem 17. Might leave himself under the microscope once again with very little battery to work with also. I don't think he's going to get the DRS.
Doesn't look like it. Ricky 03 is licking his lips for this opportunity. He's going to make his way on through with, well, rather academic ease as that guy Vince peels out of the pit lane. In fact, loads and there's a gaggle of cars into the pit lane as we highlight the Sauber of, I think, Grid Jokes, who does get out ahead of GB, but did pit a couple of laps ago. Has had 2 laps now on the hard compound tyres. Good news for him, as they will be well warmed up into the window. Ricky 03 made his way past Kareem 17. Concept 7 is hounding the rear of that Aston Martin car now.
And look at the front. It's now Tiamat Marduk leading proceedings once again. Lolanobu was very close. I think we didn't quite catch it. I think they might have been 3 wide once again going down into the Lecombe chicane, but once again it was the Ferrari being given the cold shoulder and couldn't at least get himself in between the Red Bull and the Racing Bulls car. And he's got to be careful now because Fabio, also on the medium tyres, looking very punchy, very racy in there as well, is just going to cause Lolanoba a little bit of concern. Going to have to keep his wits about him a little bit more. Can't exclusively look forwards out of the halo. Might just need to take a look in the mirrors once a few times.
Quite right. Fabio's just been getting stronger and stronger in this race as far as I can tell, as Racing Chai in the wheel tracks, in the slipstream, looking to keep a hold of that DRS. Lolanoba closing in all the time though, just piling on the pressure little by little, bit by bit, into the bus stop. A tiny bit of a slide from Racing Chai, but that's because he's peeling into the pit lane, the first of the lead lot to blink.
100%. Jumping in earlier than maybe would have expected. But Datka Vince on the previous lap coming in, thinking about that undercut. Doesn't want to lose too much track position because Vince is pretty quick at the moment on those brand new hard compound tyres compared to the ailing softs. Gives Tiamat Marduk a little bit of a buffer as well over Lolanoba. Into the bus stop we go with GB tangling and dicing away with Grid Jokes, almost side by side, eyeball to eyeball. But it is what was 12th place. Going to pick up a couple more with Scotty Designs in the pit lane. Razim Chai emerges, spat out of the pits directly behind the Red Bulls of Adam Sanderson. Will he be close enough to maybe use the DRS and a bit of battery to his advantage to blast past down the Kemmel straight? Be touch and go because he doesn't really want to follow that Red Bull through the middle sector.
He'd certainly be hoping he can get a move on down the road, as Kareem 17 says, box, those soft tyres are toast. This is about the lap I expected the soft tyres. Very surprised at a lot of the medium runners, though, binning off that compound as well to get the hard compound tyre on and go for that potential longer stint. Needless to say, XII, his priority at the moment is to pick the pocket of Adam Sanderson, shows the nose to the inside, the Red Bull driver. It's not really his race, no real interest in holding up the charge of last week's race winner, and XII well on his way now.
Adam probably learning a bit from last week as well. It wasn't quite his fault, but he did fight XII very, very hard when the Ferrari had much fresher tyres. Led to Adam getting spun round and losing a whole host of places. So maybe just developing that awareness, let's say, to pick his battles a little bit better, even though it wasn't necessarily his fault, the contact that was made by Ricky giving him a big old squeeze going through turn number 2 at Jeddah early on in that race, and really ended Adam's chances of what was looking pretty good. Could have definitely finished inside the top 5. Ended up P9 in the end with a good battling recovery drive to get inside the top 10. Could have been so much better. Razin currently 16.5 seconds off the lead. Has that looked a little bit unsteady for Cream 17 as he makes his way into the pit lane along with the former 2-time champion Tiamat Marduk. A couple of laps later than Vince, 1 lap later than Razin Chai. How strong is that undercut going to be? He's absolutely motoring in the middle sector, as is GB68.
Absolutely. I think they'll be fine from that guy Vince, because Vince had to change his front wing, of course, after that first lap excursion. But in the case of GB and Razin Chai, they are absolutely flying out there. Ben, of course, does have the shorter run out of the pit lane. Is hoping to prize onto DRS. There goes Razin Chai back into the provisional lead of this race. Once all pit stops are said and done, I think Ben has just about by the skin of his teeth held on to DRS, and that was of paramount importance to keep ahead of his teammate, who probably really had no interest in fighting him, let's be honest, but to also keep himself away of this man in the background, GB, looking for the move.
GB was talking about a top 5. Yeah, top 5 might be possible from the back of the grid. He's net 3rd place here, because where on earth has Cream 17 got a further 3 seconds back down the road? It's going to be the inside into Rivage for GB. Wants to try and keep tabs on Razin and Ben in front to give himself a shot to winning this race. Adam leaves the door open, respectful racing to the outside of No Name we go. And that is a lovely, lovely move from GB. Yes, he's got the tyre advantage, but he gets it done to pinpoint accuracy. And that is a net 3rd place for himself. He's only 3 seconds off the back of Razin now. Game on.
I don't know if all of you can lip read, but I think you can probably tell what kind of words GB was saying, egging himself on, and quite right he should. He's absolutely on it. Foot flat to the floor every single opportunity, equipment change or not. You cannot stop this man round the Belgian Grand Prix. He'd always find his way back to the front. Looks like Ben didn't even get DRS off of Razin in the end. Is now 1.6 seconds behind. Does have the newer tyres, of course. Does have the same medium compound tyres. And that would mean a 2-stop for those two, trusting in those softer compounds, whereas others on those hard compounds will see what the ebb and flow is like. But this is going to be very interesting indeed.
100%. That divergence in strategy is what some drivers going for those hard tyres, which Adam Sanderson has said do not feel very good. He's still going on the tyres that he started the race on, 14 laps accrued as yet, but they don't feel particularly nice. And like I said, surely that would filter out some of the drivers that they feel like a really, really horrible race time. Maybe it has got through, definitely, to Adam Sanderson's teammate Tiamat Marduk, favouring the medium tyres at this stage of the race, but not quite on the same level of Razin at the moment. Just dropping time, leaking time throughout the lap. 1.6 seconds that gap has extended to now, and he's almost closer to GB than he is to the pole sitter.
Look at the top 4 we have as well. Lolin Ober, Fabio in the McLaren, XII, it's a Ferrari 1-3, and then Concept 7 in P4 again. Again, goes under the radar, but the Williams driver is having a cracking run here at the Belgian Grand Prix. Razin was being held behind by Tuki. He said, not for long, sunshine. I have a mission. I have a score to settle. Through he goes into P6 and well on the charge. We're hearing as well, Tiamat Marduk. Guess what? It's fuel talk. He's minus 1.3 laps down on fuel. Razin also at minus 1.16, so both of them not exactly getting away with it in terms of the fuel. They'll be praying for some kind of later safety car, perhaps. Lap number 15 of the Belgian Grand Prix. If you've just tuned in, welcome to the Creator Series. This is the story. Lolin Ober, the Italian stallion, he is leading again in the Creator Series. Couldn't quite do it last week at Saudi Arabia, but the ball is in his court at the moment. Fabio, XII, in hot pursuit with DRS at their disposal. Concept 7 in P4 just languishing outside of that allotted zone, but nonetheless an impressive drive so far. Matt 212 yet to pit. It's all about Rasin Chai, and this man Tiamat Marduk in the bottom right of your screen, looking for the maneuver, a switchback potentially at last source. Will do well to wait behind though. He knows what he knows what's at his disposal. My brain's moving faster than my mouth. The point is, he bides his time. He has DRS. Through he goes. It's academic, as is the case for this man, Rasin Chai, up into P5.
Brain's still moving faster than my internet there as the net race leader does blast through. Tiamat Marduk, interesting one. Obviously, he wanted the helping out of the DRS to blast back through, but did he lose too much time there, stuck behind Tukey? It's made not too much of a difference in terms of where he is to Matt 212, but Rasin's a further second up the road, so interesting tactics there, and it also will probably bring GB a little bit closer towards him, and now 5 seconds as well, separating GB and Kareem 7T. This race, ever since that little bit of a blunder on the second lap where Rasin got through, Ben got through, the 2 Ferraris filed through as well. Kareem 7T hasn't really managed to recover that lost time. He's now comfortably off the back of the drivers. He was racing nearly 10 seconds, the tune, between himself and Rasin.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's also, we answered the question, he went for the hard tyres. That's why he's also losing so much time compared to those leading cars of Rasin, Tiamat Marduk and GB provisionally. Now only 9 seconds between the next car up the road, well, the leader of the race, nearly 5 seconds between Rasin and Concept 7. He is absolutely loving life at this Belgian Grand Prix track. We're highlighting GB, 19th on the grid, by the way, up to P8. Absolutely excellent stuff. Otherwise, battles. Tiamat Marduk is done waiting. Matt 212 just slaloms out of the way. No real necessity to fight the Red Bull driver, who is on the rampage.
100%, but 3 seconds now, the gap between himself and Rasin Chai. You can see there, GB68. It's not the British racing green of the Aston Martin, it's the flash of pink and blue of Alpine this time, the Enstone colours draping around GB68 as he continues to cruise up to the back of one of his former championship rivals. The battle out front continues. Said it's a 1-3 for Ferrari. I'd go further and say it's still a 1-2-3 for Ferrari, with Fabio in the middle there. 7/10 off the back of Lodino. But Ricky's just losing touch ever so slightly. And we saw this last week, actually. Maybe it's something to talk about with Lolly's qualifying. He was comfortably quicker than Ricky in the race, but qualifying-wise, missed an opportunity. Qualified behind Ricky last week, behind Ricky again this week. He was punchy on the first lap, got ahead of his team, but maybe just leaving himself with a little bit too much to do with some minor underperformance over one lap. Didn't improve, remember, on his final lap of the session.
I think it's a credit to the 2 drivers as well, Lolinova and Bricky. They have both pulled their finger out for this season. They're absolutely loving it. As a Williams goes through on a Haas, that is lovely to see. But not only that as well, the rate of improvement from Ricky has also been something that I will commend. He's done an excellent job. GB burning the battery out of Q1, has got Matt 212 on older tyres. Again, no real necessity to stop the Alpine driver and the Enstone outfit. The blue blur makes its way through into P7. A bit of a stalemate though in terms of the gaps now. Rasin 2.7 behind Concept. Tiamat Marduk also 2.7 behind Rasin. GB 2.5 off of Ben. So there's going to need to be something special that's pulled out of the hat by any one of these drivers to try and close those gaps down.
And what's going to come first? The pit stops for the leaders, or Rasin Chai catches them? Well, Ricky's definitely going to get out of the way. He jumps into the pits before his teammate to get shots of his medium compound tyres. You would expect, traditionally, the hard tyre to the end of the race will be the punch that he pulls. And you can see there, yes, I think those are the white striped hard compound tyres that he will re-emerge on and probably filter out in and around where Dat Guy Vince is, maybe a little bit further forward. There was a big gap forming between, I think it was Tukey and Kareem 17, no, Tukey and Matt 212, maybe 3 seconds. Here comes Ricky out of the pits. There is the Sauber of grid jokes, and he is going to be ahead of Adam Sanderson and Dakar. You can see the flash of Mercedes there coming through turn 1. A little bit of nice track space. He's not too far away from Kareem 70 either.
And those hard compound tyres. So one stopping seems to be that first Ferrari car on the road. What will Lolinova in Fratic Concept do? That is a question that remains to be answered. Kareem 17 goes through on Tukey. That guy Vince simply surges past Adam Sanderson, who's on those hard compound tyres, up into P12 with a full front wing. That guy Vince looks absolutely imperious, and now he's within a second of Ricky up ahead. Super Noodle Bagel making moves on the Williams of Chappers. A decent battle for P16, won by the American Dream for now.
100%. Nearly halfway through. Every driver still running, which we didn't have this time last week of course. We lost a couple of drives, Ryan L83, notably on the opening lap, didn't even get out of the first sector, almost didn't get out of the first lap, but with that monumental save, did a very good job to keep it pointing in the straight line and also keep all four wheels on his wagon. Lolly, Infratic, continued to soldier on. Concept 7 behind has been caught and subsequently passed by Razin Chai. Now 4 seconds the gap between himself and the leading duo. That looked very comfortable going through Blanchemont. And there is TMM Malik, just taking about a second out of Razin on this lap. So he's been stuck behind the Williams. Can Ben try and catch Concept at the perfect opportunity to grab a bit of DRS, maybe down the Kemmel Straight, and save himself a little bit of lost time in the middle sector.
Ben hails his origins apparently in sim racing to a game called Crash Team Racing. Well, less I say about that, possibly the better, but it looks like he will catch Concept 7 at the opportune moment, is within a second to grab that DRS and keep the gap relatively similar between himself and Razin, if not just compress it a little bit. We'll have to feel the pain of following in the dirty air through Les Combes. In fact, it's just going to save the battery a little bit to try and attack at some point midway through the lap. A move through Eau Rouge and Radion though. Kareem 17 might be on the hard tyres, hasn't quite got his way, but what has materialised is a marvellous manoeuvre. Grid jokes through on Tukey, down the Kemmel Straight. That guy Vince through on Ricky 03, down the Kemmel Straight. Those hard tyres just will not fire up for at least a couple of laps, and that is even more pain for the Ferrari driver.
Big advantage that Vince has got there. Yes, he was handicapped a little bit by chipping off part of his front wing and adding a further 6 seconds or so to his time of having to get it changed. Well, that is absolutely perfect there. A freebie handed out for Tim at Malik. It's like a magic trick. There you go. And there you go behind me as well. He's used his lag switch to perfection there as Ben to jump the Williams behind him, chuck him behind going through Pure, and now he's got a clear track through the second half of the lap. Absolutely beautiful stuff.
That's the most immaculately executed DDoS attack from TMF Marduk that I think I have ever seen in all of my races of league racing commentary. Fantastic stuff. Slap it in overtake of the week. That's it right there. On the front page, on the back page, it is this Australian driver who has still kept that gap at 1.6 seconds. So the teleportation has really helped out the Red Bull driver. Grid jokes looks to be a man on a mission and a man on the move. Bus stop chicane awaits. Is he going to go inside, outside? Doesn't really matter. Left and right, and quite possibly good night on the Mercedes driver. Through goes Grid jokes into P8 on the road, and that's because Matt 212 peels into the pit lane.
Doesn't take away from how lovely a move that was, even though he had to only contend with half of the bus stop chicane. Lovely overtake. We're seeing some great battles. I remember you can send your best overtakes at the week at hotmail.com. Ryan83, I think, will be absolutely delighted to receive some of those and kickstart what was a legendary series back in the day. Here we go with GB, saying that he's starting to struggle a little bit with his pedals, but the pace is still fairly strong. Has dropped 4 seconds off the back of Ben, but does take 5th place off the hands of Concept 7. And still lapping pretty nicely comparatively to Cream 17. That gap's still around about 6 seconds between himself and the Aston Martin. Concept 7 back in the session, losing all of that time after that disconnection that gave Tim at Marduk 4th place on a plate.
That is great news. Good to see Concept 7 back. Meanwhile, I have to wonder what strategy Lolly and Infratic are trying to execute here. If it's a medium and 2 sets of softs, if they're going for that 1 stop, because those on the 2 stop, they've already caught them. Racin's caught up to the back of Fabio, is now munching within a second, in fact eroding that gap at a rapid rate of knots. So again, I do have to pose the question here, Tom. What kind of strategy do we think they're trying to conjure up?
Goal hanging for a safety car is always nice. We kind of find ourselves in a similar position to where we were last week. Razin pulled a punch earlier, undercut Lollinova, caught Lollinova by the time that Lolly decided to react and box again. And it gave Razin so much flexibility with his strategy in the latter stages of this race. Remember, Lolly and Fabio still yet to stop. Do they jump into the pits? No, they do not. And that will give A, an opportunity for Razin to try and blast past, but B, maybe the chance for Tim at Marduk to just erode that gap a little bit more. 1.6 seconds. You can just see there in the top left-hand of screen the white bull heading down the main straight into La Source, as Fabio was a little bit wide of the apex. And I think that might leave him a bit vulnerable here to Razin.
Infratic on 20-lap old mediums, ladies and gentlemen. Same as Lollinova. They've been on those tyres from the start of this race. Razin's tyres 12 laps younger. So even through Eau Rouge and Radion, the difference is night and day. No matter the changing of the times, there's one thing that remains. Razin is on his way for the lead of the race.
Charging through, using that racing ball very nicely. And look at the speed he's got there through Malmedy. Lolly has to go defensive, but I would not be surprised if Razin just goes clean around the outside. And that is exactly what he does through Rivard, passes the Ferrari like he's not even there. It's like an F1 car versus an F2 car, and that is the tyre offset that Razin is running and romping out into the distance with. He is tracking very, very nicely. And now we've got to see, Lolly, Fabio, what have you got? How are you going to win this race from the position you find yourself with Tim and Mark hot on the heels of that ailing duo as well now?
A sequel to the double overtake very much awaits. Here's the Red Bull driver, who, something I want to highlight, talked about his own reputation when I was in Clipbook Corner as to why potentially Vince made the mistake. It definitely might have been a contributing factor. And I can't see him being incorrect on that front. If you're in that position, if you built that reputation of going for the aggressive moves, of not shirking away from any particular apex as Fabio decides, maybe I'm not willing to wait behind Lolinova anymore. I know Tiamat Marduk's behind me, and so I've surely got to try and make inroads as much as I can. It's not going to happen. Finally, they both peel into the pit lane, so no matter what the pressure applied was going to be, it would amount to nada. And what tyres do they dare to go on from this position?
It's got to be the hard tyres. Surely it's got to be the hard tyres. They can't be going for a two-stop from this position. I would suggest that is unwise, and yes, it is the white-walled hard compound tyres for both of them, the Ferrari and the McLaren respectively. They're going to filter out with a bit of overtaking to do, but they will definitely be going to the end of the race. Can the same be said about Kareem 17? He's got himself up into 4th place courtesy of the stops that other people have been making. Can he go to the end? 8 laps on his hard compound tyres. We know they're a step harder than the other compounds respectively. Can he try and extend this stint? We know he's an aggressive driver. He usually works the front tyres in particular a lot harder than some other drivers, so that might be his downfall in this attempt to try and extend this stint to the end of the race.
Quite possibly. I mean, at least his tyres will warm up quicker, I suppose, courtesy of his driving style. But Kareem 17, I'll just highlight at the moment, set his personal best lap of the race. On the previous lap, it was a 1:45.8. At least a couple of tenths quicker than Rasin Chai. Sizable amounts of tenths quicker than Tiamat Marduk or GB could do. So those hard tyres are coming into a realm of their own. The gap just dipping below 5 seconds as Lolin Oba now has his teammate right behind him. And Lolin Oba is going to be feeling the pain of that tyre warm-up. So what does he do in this situation with his teammate in hot pursuit?
Well, if we judge it off Kareem 17, it takes 8+ laps to get some proper energy into those hard compound tyres, to get them working to your desires. Got Fabio for company as well. Rico 3 and Fabio, remember, in a very similar situation as is Lolinova, but Ricky's tyres 4 laps older than his teammate and the McLaren behind. Here is Tiamat Marduk, by the way, though, just cruised up once again to the back of Razin Chai. 2 former winners at this venue, and interesting stat, nobody in the Creator Series has won the Belgian Grand Prix twice. So this is an opportunity for both of these men, along with GB68 behind, to be the first double winner here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Bit of a wobble for Razin coming out of La Source. The DRS will be opening as they go up through Rouge and Radian. I think Tiamat Marduk, when that flap opens, is going to be chomping at the bit to get himself back into the lead of the race. We saw it was a non-contest when Razin got past Lolinova. This is going to be easy as you like as well. Former 2-time champion finds himself atop the timing charts once again. Ben blasts his way into the lead of the race as we pass half distance.
Tantalising prospect on paper, and also even more so on the tarmac, ladies and gentlemen. We're over the fulcrum point of the Belgian Grand Prix. Tiamat Marduk, the race leader, Mango's on the radio, saying, I have no idea what brake bias is or what it does. You know what? Fair enough, but at least you're still in this race after 23 laps. It is a marathon, not a sprint, particularly in a 100% race. No real surprise as to why. But you've just got to bide your time, play the patient game, and Tiamat Marduk and Razin are in a much more comfortable situation than they ever were at the beginning of this race. They have that superior compound compared to those hard tyre runners behind, at least at the moment, and they can work together now to just limit the damage before that second pit stop. What I will say is, Razin made a mistake in the middle sector of that previous lap. That's what invited Tiamat Marduk just oh so close to an overtake.
Yeah, look at it. Lost a second and a half on the previous lap, and that was what gave Tim the freest of free opportunities to get the lead of the race back. But I think he's going to flip-flop in the next couple of laps. 19 of the 20 drivers have made stops. Adam Sanderson, the only driver still out there on his starting tyres, 22 laps on his hard compound tyres. But as we do go past, as Carl said, the fulcrum point of the Belgian Grand Prix, I think we should hear what the lovely Kieran McGinley has to say about the action we've seen so far.
Oh, thank you very much, Tom. I don't know about lovely, though. Although, one word of advice to Mango about the brake bias: if there's a button that says magic, do not press it under any circumstances. Really big tip there. But it's been an interesting race, hasn't it? A tale of two strategies at the moment: mediums versus hards at this point in the race. And how about this for a battle then? As we see then Razin get the DRS and swoop his way back past Tim at Marlett. There's a bit of teamwork going on here, I think, to get themselves away from the likes of GB and Karim at this stage of the race. But we haven't had a safety car as of yet over the halfway mark, which is pretty surprising. But I'm sure all of those drivers will be ready, itching and waiting for some sort of race neutralisation, and how that would be just throwing the cat amongst pigeons at this point in the race. What tyres would you put on? It's all a case of picking the right tyres at the right time. Top three on those medium tyres. You've got Karim there on the hard tyres, which is pretty interesting. And Adam Sanderson was saying in this race that those hard tyres were not working well. It's taken a couple of laps to fire up those tyres. The Ferrari drivers know that for sure, as Lolinova and Ricky currently still in 6th and 7th place. Ricky actually just about within DRS zone of Lolinova at this stage. But how about someone who has not stopped yet? We've mentioned him already. Adam Sanderson has not stopped yet in this race. He's begging for a safety car at this point. Absolutely on his knees at this point, waiting for some sort of race neutralisation, but it hasn't come yet. And beyond the halfway mark, you would have thought either the mediums will try and nurse him to the end if that were to happen. But he's just hanging on in there at the moment and in the points at this time. It's a happy hunting ground for GB as well. Obviously, he started from the back of the grid, has the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 45 flat, as he's put his 13th lap on those medium tyres. And a big shout out as well to Brandon Miles and Mango Slayer. They've been well and truly chucked into the deep end tonight. And although Brandon has said, wow, these guys are quick, well, Brandon, the only way to go is forward from this point, my friend. You will get quicker, and I can guarantee you are quicker than me. Scotty Designs and Sato here battling for that final point, as Chappers and Tuki also trying to battle away for position as well for the final points in Creator Series at the Belgian Grand Prix, as we head away down in towards the hairpin, the very first hairpin, down then onto the power, downhill as well, as there you can see it's just about Safso making his way on through into P14 in what is his 120th race here in the Creator Series. But watching on up and down the field, Adam Sanders has lost another position. But it's all fun and games at this point. Tuki's on the one of the freshest tyres as well, and 4-lap-old hard tyres. But at the moment, at this stage, it does seem Razin and Tia McMardock are working together at this point, sharing DRS and trying to break away from the likes of GB and Karim. And with that, Tom, it's back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Kieran. Look at this quartet getting stuck in on the exit of Malmedy and coming down through Rivage we go. Safso, 14th Season 1 champ. Ahead of Scotty Designs, ahead of Tuki, ahead of Chappers, battling away for 14th and 15th. If you're new to the Creator Series, down to 15 the point scorers, as that would have been ambitious, wouldn't it, from Chappers? Thinking about it, dangling those down the inside of Poon, but running a little bit wide on the exit. Now, Carl, Raz and Chai, going to be loving how things are going at the moment, leading the race, leading the championship, of course, after winning last week. But interesting stat, the winner of the Belgian Grand Prix has never gone on to win the subsequent championship. Meraki in Season 1, Tim McMardock in Season 2, Alex Gill in Season 3, Raz and Chai himself in Season 4, Tom 97 Season 7, GB68 Season 9, and Lolinova Season X. All of them won the Belgian Grand Prix. None of them won that season's championship.
Well, with a stat like that, Razin would just let Ben coast along the line in first. How about that? Keep the curse flowing, they say, on lap number 26, as Safso with a little bit of a lock-up. Nervous body language from the RB. And, you know, Scotty Designs will sniff a little bit of blood in the water, but he's got a very hungry Chrome McLaren who's showing the nose to the inside. Tuki trying to be brave on the brakes, but also has to throw an equally defensive shape towards Chappers as Lolinova gets past Grid Jokes. That's for P5 on the road, and we'll see what kind of pace he has on the hard compound tyres. Now only 4 laps old in this race. In terms of the pace otherwise, Kareem 70, last lap 45.9. He was 1.2 seconds faster than any of the 3 cars ahead of him. Tuki down the inside of Scotty Designs, brave on the brakes, little bit of a shove, sends Scotty Designs off the track. That might have been a touch rude.
expect to see that in the Creator Series recount. I think he's going to leak another place as Chapper says, thank you very much. I'll lap that one up on a silver platter and pile even more misery onto Scott as he tried it around the outside to keep hold of 15th, but ended up dropping down to 17th. Now, like he said, Kareem 17 faster than the leading trio. Identical laps on the previous one for Raz and Chai and Tiamat Malik, 147, 195. How are they going to play this one? When do they pull the trigger? When do they bite the bullet to jump in for their second and what you would imagine will be final stops of the race? Kareem 17, the second stint, started slow. Those hard compound tyres at one stage was nearly 12 seconds off the back of Raz and Chai. That has almost been slashed in half, just 6.3 seconds, now covering the top four with Lolinova a further 8 seconds back. These guys are converging on each other as the medium's definitely starting to feel the full force of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
Yeah, Kareem 70 played the patient game, didn't quite work at the race start, but has bided his time, and it could pay off in spades. Tiamat Malik, though, again, digs in and finds his way back into P1 again, just working together to try and pull even more of a gap to make the two-stop as viable for them as possible. And we've got a very interesting race developing. If you're the likes of Kareem 17, Lolinova, Ricky 03 and Fratic and co on the hard compound tyres, you probably most definitely are going to the end. If you're the likes of Adam Sarnason, who's just peeled into the pits to make what will probably be his one and only stop, you've got Tiamat Malik and Razin also to make that one extra stop. Do they have enough of a surplus of pace in the tank? Or will the likes of Kareem 70 and Lolinova, who are now a second, if not seconds faster than the competition, just about hold their nerve?
Lolinova 2 seconds faster than Tiamat Malik, Raz and Chai, GB68 on the previous lap. He was also a second faster than Kareem 70 as well, who is almost within the 1 second window of GB68. Like you said, playing a long game, this race is definitely starting to come back to him, but could he maybe be a bit cheeky later on? If Tiamat Malik, Razin and GB, maybe less so do you, because I think Kareem's going to get past him pretty quickly. If they extend the stint maybe, I think it's unlikely with the pace they've got, but if they do, could Kareem maybe be a bit cheeky? Got a couple of sets of medium tyres still in his back pocket. Does he maybe want to roll the dice and go with them?
Whether he went for hard or balanced allocation, I'll be honest, I have no idea, but he definitely has a set of mediums available to him, and that could pay off. Quite right, Tom. It could absolutely pay off. Lolinova was just had scorching pace on that previous lap. 45.1 on the previous lap. He's going to cross the line and on and do a 45.6, so only a few tenths of a second faster than Kareem 70. Still 7.5 seconds to try and make up, but after just 5 laps of pain and graft, those hard tyres are in a realm of their own.
I think he should be blasting past GB68 with helping Anadiris. It's usually GB that captains the Aston Martin car, but he watches the flash of green go past him. Non-contest into the Les Comps chicane around the outside. Doesn't even need the braking zone, really, because that is easy as you like. Here comes a titanic duel. In Fratic trying to pick up a couple of places. Disposed of Grid Jokes. Hangs the nose down the inside of Ricky into the Les Comps chicane, but there is big contact as Ricky falls off the circuit. Grid Jokes trying to come back through, wrestle the tide back and get 7th place back into his grasp. 6th place even as he battles away with Infratic down the hill into Rivage. The McLaren has fresher tyres, got the outside line and turn to the inside line of No Name. Bit of a wobble there for Grid Jokes, which means he has to concede defeat and wave the white flag. That got a little bit tussly there, bit tetchy between Infratic and Ricky.
I can only imagine the Italian words he's saying there, or I can't actually because I don't speak Italian, but what he'll probably be saying is, what was I supposed to do? Well, the carrot was dangled. Fabio put the nose down the inside to pose the question to Ricky. The answer was, well, I'll leave you just about enough space, but be respectful while you're at it. Unfortunately, it all came to a bit of a head. Fabio comes off worse with front wing damage. Realistically, in my opinion, I think it's just maybe had to be a little bit more committed. Regardless, back past Grid Jokes he goes, and that's one conundrum done. There's another conundrum that's waiting in the form of the damage. Lolinova's absolutely, well, he's put the afterburners on, quite frankly. Simply scorching pace from the Scuderia Ferrari. Across the line he goes for what I have no doubt will be yet another 145, and it is a 145.8. Hard tyre runners are in the hot seat right now.
Shows how important it was to get ahead of his teammate critically when he came out of the pits. He's got the same ace tyres as Fabio. They were joined at the hip for the first 20 laps of this race. Now 6 seconds between them. Obviously, that is helped a little bit by that contact on the previous lap, but that is not good news at all for Fabio, who hasn't really managed to keep tabs on the Italian stallion. He's gone galloping off into the distance. We were 3 wide on the previous lap. Could we be 4 wide? Probably not, because Vince is a bit too far back, but through goes Grid Jokes easy as you like. Ricky 03 says, I'll have a piece of that as well, and relegates Fabio down a further spot. And despite having the front wing damage, which is going to aid his straight line speed with a limited downforce. McLaren can do absolutely jot about that, and he's now got Dat Gavinst for company, and those two have been entangled a couple of times so far this season, haven't they?
They have indeed. Last lap, almost, well, leading on to the last lap of the previous race. Well, it was that guy Vince who nerfed it into the back of Fabio. He'll be hoping not for a repeat of that particular eventuality. As our resident TK confirms, yes, light yellow front wing damage on the left-hand side for the McLaren Maestro. That will be music to the ears of that guy Vince, who is just going to up the tempo even more.
100%. Tim Mollick, still your race leader. 8/10 per second clear of Razin Chai, but once again, as we've said, Kareem 17 is motoring. Just 3.5 seconds now off the back of the Season 5 champion. 3 former champions filling the top 3 places with 2 of the perennial contenders to the throne in 4th and 5th. Got to shout out Gridjokes in 6th place as well. Got a penalty as GB does make his way into the pits at the start of lap number 30. So he's going to pull the undercut attempt. Dakovic's all over the back of Fabio. Thinks about it maybe into the bus stop, maybe just trying to spook Fabio into a bit of a mistake. Just lock a brake and send him off into the runoff area, but stays behind for the time being. We're going to see once again the power of the undercut. These medium tyres, they were good for all of about 10 laps, and while they were good, they were darn good. But when they started to fall away, you could really see the hard tyres, that extra step harder in compound, coming to the fruition.
Indeed we shall. GB, second and most definitely final pit stop of this race. Discounting safety cars, we know it can happen. Heels out just ahead of Concept 7 in the Williams car. We'll have a little bit of DRS. Adam Sanderson, he's woken up. Medium compound tyres and a 44.3. Absolutely obliterates what any other fastest lap the competition have put to the board by nearly 8/10 of a second. Still down in P15 at the moment, but while it was the pain and the shame on the hard compound tyres, it's going to be marvel on the mediums for the Red Bull.
They could have been back-to-back fastest laps, because for a decent portion of last week, he held the fastest lap of the race. Safso getting stuck in with Chappers. The Williams on the inside into the Les Combes chicane. They keep it clean, unlike Ricky and Fabio from a couple of laps ago. But it's the Season 1 champion that holds 13th place within his grasp. Adam Sanderson motoring on his medium tyres. Chappers, does he think about it down the inside? Just getting a foothold in this battle to try and move through. A little bit of a tail wag as we go down the hill through Rivage, and having to stay behind the RB for the time being. But he's going to be under the cosh massively with Adam Sanderson right there. Ryan Aledi also is motoring, looking pretty speedy on his medium tyres in the Alpine, with Scotty Designs for company as well.
I think we're going to see once again a visualisation of just the grip difference between those mediums and the hard compound tyres ahead. Only 3 laps old are the mediums that Adam Sanderson is running. We get the best seat in the house with Ryan L83, who has a figurative bucket of popcorn to watch Adam Sanderson carve through this traffic, leaves it in none through Stavolo 2. Ryan L83 senses a little opportunity to burn the battery as much as possible. Still, he'll continue to do it. Now turns it off to save it for the first part, the Kemmel Straight of the next lap. What does Adam Sanderson do, though? He knows he's got the tyres. He knows he's got the grip. So down the inside he goes. Of not one, maybe 2, but overcooks it. Sends Chappers wide at the first part of the bus stop. That was almost complete overcookage from the Red Bull.
Bit of a day late and a dollar short there from Adam Sanderson. Came from his overdraft. He was so far back. He didn't quite get his braking right. I think it is fair to say on that one, but does get himself ahead of the Williams. And Ryan, who is also on brand new medium tyres, says thank you very much. That is a lovely freebie for me. I will not turn that one down. And with the helping hand of DRS, you would say this is going to be a pretty regulation move atop the hill for Adam Sanderson to move up into 13th place. The only little bit of contention is maybe if the overspeed that the Alpine gets, can he try and challenge Adam Sanderson? He was almost on the grass rise. He looked for space. Now it presents itself, and he flies past the Red Bull. Good move there from Ryan. Chance at maybe fighting for a top 10. If you consider how his Saudi Arabian Grand Prix went a week ago, lasted all but 4 corners, this is a much improved outing.
I think the stat we got given was he survived 0.23% of the race at Saudi Arabia. He survived a significant amount more than that, ladies and gentlemen. The Alpine driver redeeming himself royally, down in P13 at the moment, has those new medium tyres though. Next target up the road is Tukey. News though from the Clipbook corner, news from the pit wall from our resident broadcast team. Ben is in the mud. Absolutely in the mud. We can confirm his fuel situation is dire, and Kareem 70 is closing in. The top 2 are in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, they've got to try and work together here. Ben, minus 1.16 as Gridjokes comes into the pits for the second time this season to get rid of his hard compound tyres. Really good stint that for Gridjokes. Was under the microscope early on, struggled a bit for pace, but got himself some great track conditioning, was able to hang with the likes of Riccio 3. That guy Vince and Infratical are much fresher tyres. And here is GB, who's already made his second stop, flying on his medium tyres, trying to make the undercut work to get himself back in the game, really, with Tiamat and Razicai. Give himself a shot at maybe winning this race for the second time. But Kareem 17, like you said many a time, Carl, looking very, very good. Just 2 seconds off the lead now in third place. And his fuel situation considerably better than Tiamat. Ben minus 1.16, Razin minus 0.85, Kareem only down by 0.15.
I was wondering why the positions weren't swapping anymore between Ben and Razin. I was wondering why they weren't working together to use more pace. And, well, the answer, I think, is pretty clear. Razin's just stayed behind now to save his fuel as much as he could. It was much closer, the gap of fuel saving between the Red Bull and the RB driver. Now it's really expanded. Kareem 70's now within DRS. And suddenly, it just became even more of a cinematic spectacle.
What do you do here if you're Kareem? Do you go to the end? 18 laps, on his hard compound tyres. Another 12. He should manage to get those to the end of the race, although they will be significantly past their best by the time he gets to lap 44. 12 to go, 13 to go. Interesting little strategical tussle that's going to play out.
Absolutely. Very interesting strategical tussle. I could not agree more with you. We're 3/4 of the way through the Belgian Grand Prix. That is absolutely excellent. Alpine on the bottom right making moves. That's GB through Blanchimont, who's absolutely flying. On he goes through. Meanwhile, through La Source and through Eau Rouge go our top 3. Kareem 70, now within a second. I would not be surprised if he just saves his fuel and gets himself back into that comfortable window.
100%. Need to be really precise here and manage this race perfectly, because there is a lot at stake in the second half, in the closing stages, isn't there?
Absolutely. I could not agree more with you. And for now, at least, the top 3 remain line astern. However, let's not forget, let's not for a second think that this race is over and done with. There's still the question of safety cars. We cannot ignore that. Fabio and Ricky, they're fighting again, though, round the outside of the Lacombe chicane. Meanwhile, Ben's garage is going. Ben box, pit confirmed. So this is it. The second and final stops. They're going to start raining in. One of which, though, we're on board with. That's GB, hounding the rear end of that McLaren. He's got 15 seconds, just over, maybe even 16 seconds, between himself and the lead hard tyre runner of Kareem 70. A move into Pooh, I hear you say. This is going to get dicey, Tom.
Oh, GB try and help himself here. Buffet driving. Ricky with absolutely nowhere to go to the outside. GB, I don't think he's going to be satisfied, as he'll try and challenge Fabio into the Fanier chicane round the outside. Is there the space? Not quite. The McLaren keeps them at bay for the time being. But GB's so much quicker on these fresh tyres, isn't he?
He absolutely is. Very, very good stuff from GB. Up into P6 he goes. There could well be another move into the bus stop chicane. Make no mistake about that. GB pushing it to the absolute limit. He's going to burn the battery all the way through as we look to Kareem 70, because Rasin Shai is into the pit lane.
He is. Gone for the early punch, so Kareem will be left to deal with Tim Marcan in front. Just a second separating them as here we go into the bus stop. Inside becomes the outside for the final corner for GB as he tries to take what should become 4th place, maybe. We don't know how strong the undercut will be. Definitely 5th place, as Razin, you can see they're tumbling down. Going to be touch and go, actually. Where is GB? Where is Razin Shai? He comes out behind the Alpine, right into the path of his former teammate. He's behind the McLaren. GB at the moment is the net race leader, but with significantly older tyres. Indeed.
4 laps older than Rasin Chai, who immediately disposes of the Papaya Pro. Says enough about that. I've got a score to settle. Gap between lead hard tyre runner and these two on their mediums. It is about 16 seconds. Make that 15.5 seconds. 16.5, excuse me, I can do maths, between themselves and Kareem 70. There is a lot of work to do in 10 laps. They've got to put the afterburners on and activate them paramountly quickly.
100%. And you can't be too lackadaisical here. You can't be too slow at reacting to what Razin's done. Remember last week, he was really on the ball with his strategy, really punchy, made the right calls at the right time, and that is what got him in the position to win that race. So Kareem 70 and Tim Martin, they've got to think on their feet here, because Razin playing with a full deck of cards. He holds the aces as things stand. We'll see how Ben reacts.
Let's try this again. Ben Box, says Ben's garage. Will he ignore them for a second time? Reminds me of a certain Sebastian Vettel parody that's out there on the internet. Does Ben Box? Will it have to be the reverse psychology? The answer is indeed Ben is pitting at the end of this lap. The last of the 2 stoppers at the very forefront of the field. And well, grab your buckets of popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, because with 10 tours to go of the Belgian Grand Prix, Kareem 70 leads What a contrast in fortunes compared to last week. And we're in for an entertainment extravaganza.
We are indeedy with Kareem leading the way. Staying out, of course, will be Lolanover as well, who is taking chunks of time out of the Aston Martin. He's got much fresher tyres, it has to be said. Through goes GB, through goes Razin Chai. Tim Muddy's going to be behind the pair of them, but crucially is ahead of Infratic as Dakovic also jumps into the pit lane for a fresh set of boots.
Well, this just got very interesting indeed. Razin on the fresh mediums. No real surprise about what's going to happen into also Les Chicane. He breezes on past in the RB car, the championship leader after round number 1. No real surprise as to why that is. Moves up to P3. 16.6 seconds is the gap. The chase is on.
Chase very much is on with less than 10 to go, but they need to think about the fuel situation as well. Ben, I think, he's still significantly down, and he's not got the DRS advantage to drag him along with Razin and with GB in front. Is this race just starting to fall away from the Australian ace, with Razin leading the charge up to what we think are going to be the one-stoppers, Kareem 17 and Lolanover? We could have a scenario here where everybody converges on each other. Lolly is still a little bit quicker than Kareem 17, albeit not significantly at this stage, with Razin and GB, and probably Ben as well, charging up to the back of them.
This is what we were waiting for with these alternate strategies. Already though, Razin's getting to work. Ben goes into the gravel, perhaps just a little bit of desperation creeping in the body language of that Red Bull and in the driving of the man behind the wheel. But 4.5 seconds, now 4.7, the gap out in front. Immediately, Razin is eroding that gap. What was 16.7 seconds, turn that into almost 13 seconds. My goodness me, the pace of the new mediums is electric.
Needs to be more than a second a lap faster. He is comfortably more than a second a lap faster. 2.5 seconds the margin on the previous lap, as Razin Chai with a purple lap, maybe making Kareem and Lolly feel a bit purple with the pace that the RB has got behind, dragging GB, and crucially for Tim and Malik's chances, got himself at the moment within the 1 second window. Can he just cling onto the coattails up Rouge and Radion? Will he get the DRS down the Camel straight? He's managed to, like you say, erode the gap, but he does, crucially, have the rear wing flap open. Can he keep tabs on them, though? Can he keep them at arm's length?
Fuel situation is a bit of an interesting one as well. Kareem's on minus 0.1. GB also on minus 0.1. By far the best out of the leading bunch that have to save fuel. Lolly's on minus 0.63. Razin, minus 0.41. Ben, still almost a lap under target in this race. They've got some serious fuel-saving work to do. But if the mediums have that much surplus, they just breeze up to the back, make the overtakes happen, then save all the fuel they need. However, the question is as well, how quickly are they going to save? Are they going to make it?
100%. Hope you're enjoying this, everybody. We're in for a grandstand finish here at Spa with just 9 laps of the Belgian Grand Prix to go. Any one of 5 drivers, realistically, could still win this race. And, Carl, there's another conundrum for Tim McMurdo to consider. What if GB can't keep up with Razin Chai? In an ideal world, Ben would sit behind these 2 drivers, save a boatload of fuel for the next 5 or 6 laps, get himself back into a semi-decent position, and then go balls to the walls in the final 3 or 4 laps. If GB can't keep up with Razin, which isn't an impossibility considering Razin has 4 lap fresher tyres, what does he do in that scenario?
Well, Ben has fresher mediums by 5 laps compared to GB, which will obviously give him the advantage as they head through into lap number 37. The time is ticking away. 4.5 seconds the gap out in front. Kareem 17 in the hot seat for victory tonight. But the medium's pace is imperious. If Ben gets past GB, that's query number 1. He can then save the fuel behind Razin. Do what had happened to him at the end of the second stint. That's the question. We'll have the answers in a moment. Query 1, though, is not met in the context of this programme. Tim McMurdo with absolutely no battery, but you can hear just how long the lift and coast is into the Les Chicane. As Razin says, it's not looking good, Brev.
It is not. 10 seconds the gap. GB a little bit wide there coming out of Malmedy. Tim McMurdo maybe with an opportunity if he was on the button, as GB again wide there through Rivage, just struggling a little bit. Clumsy couple of corners which will put the former 2-time champ right underneath the rear wing of the Alpine car, and also push GB crucially outside of 1 second from Razin in front. Lolanover continues to take time out of Kareem 17, although on the previous lap was half a tenth slower than the Aston Martin out in front, despite having the 8-lap fresher hard compound tyres. Then you've got this charging trio, GB with Tim and Mark very much for company. 1.1 seconds the gap to Razin Chai. Ben slightly right there to Stavalo.
Slightly wide indeed. He's got GB though, who's outside of a second. It could well be a pick-your-pocket opportunity unless GB is just going to burn the battery again and remain in DRS of Razin. And that's going to be even more frustration that will boil to the brim for the Australian sensation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have two things. Number one, tyre talk, and number two, fuel talk until the end. We are sorry, but also not sorry, because in the context of this race, there are a multitude of drivers that might not even make the end. And it could just open the door for somebody who has been a little bit more leisurely in terms of the way they've made the car, in terms of making it a bit more cumbersome in the early phase of the race. But they have the confidence, they have the knowledge that they are going to make it. Here's Tim at Mardico. It would have happened eventually, but there's the right, there's the left, and now the press of the button, the DRS, maximum flappage down the Kemmel Straight. That's P4, and now if he can just hoist himself to the back of Razin, the fuel saving can really truly begin.
And you were talking about cumbersome. For GB there, he had to really hustle the car. A couple of stabs to get it rotated through La Source. Looked a little bit recalcitrant, did the Alpine, as Gridjokes gets the better of Concept 7. And he's almost reacquainted once again with Riccio 3 and Infratic. Just 6 laps on his medium tyres. And Gridjokes has taken about 10 seconds out of Ricky and out of Fabio. He's going to be right on their tail and not too far into the future. Motoring is the Sauber driver. Maybe underperformed a little bit in Saudi Arabia, but doing a sterling job here and could be looking at a very decent 6th place finish.
Yeah, credit where credit is due. Under the radar, Gridjokes, but very much now on our radar with a superb performance despite all of the chaos that has happened. Apparently Ben's stream has died, so it wouldn't be a Creator Series forecast without some technical gremlins hitting one of our drivers. It was Safso with the customary disconnect in qualifying. Ben's stream has now died, but he's got more things to worry about than just internet and Twitch issues. And that is the twitchiness he'll be feeling about the fuel, because he's still 0.8 down. He now has to save over 0.15 laps of fuel per lap to have any chance of finishing this race.
These two stoppers have got a hell of a lot of work to do, haven't they? 8 seconds the margin between Cream 17 and Lolanoba with 6 laps to go. On the last lap, Razin Chai a second quicker than Cream 17, a second and a half quicker than Lolanoba. So the Italian stallion maybe just hitting a bit of a brick wall here as he starts to leak time compared to the Aston Martin in front. Something we should be slightly aware of is that Cream 17 is on 2 warnings at this stage. None for Lolly, 1 for Razin, 1 for Ben, 2 for GB as well. So just keep your eyes peeled on that one. We're hearing from TK, remember Ted Kravitz, the initials, that Cream's plan is just to keep pushing because he knows he's got the fuel advantage. He will run out after everybody else, so he can afford to take a few more liberties with his fuel saving.
Let's have a look at the lap time still. Like you say, still 1 second quicker are those medium runners at least than Kareem 70 out in front. But if they're only 1 second a lap quicker, it's not going to be enough to actually catch and potentially overtake. They have got Lolanoba to deal with now. But just to highlight our race leader's performance quickly, I mean, take a bow. Kareem 70, quite frankly. Yes, he's on 2 warnings. Yes, it is far from over. But despite having 8 lap older hard compound tyres than Lolanoba, he should be falling by the wayside in terms of his overall pace. He is still multiple tenths a lap faster. He's still holding firm, still holding the advantage. And while it was a slump in Saudi Arabia, it's a barnstormer in Belgium, a beautiful drive. And with just 5 tours to go, he could be having a race win already in Season 12.
Great recovery, isn't it? From Cream 70, found the right formula after a bit of a disappointing one in Saudi Arabia last week. Only made it to a quarter race distance, chipped off his front left tyre with a bit of a miscalculation heading into turn 4. As we return to lap 40, 4.3 seconds the gap between the Aston Martin of Kareem and the Ferrari of Lolanoba, who is getting hounded by Razin, by Ben and by GB. Ben's fuel situation is still unideal, I think is the best way to describe it. Needs to save around 0.18 laps of fuel per lap if he's to make it to the end of the race. I think a few drivers have been caught short by the fact that we haven't had the safety car make a visit.
Well, let's remember the consideration here. That's exactly the nail on the head that you've hit. The safety car didn't arrive. That's why the drivers have this problem here. We have the stats, ladies and gentlemen. Ben needs to save 0.18 laps of fuel per lap to even consider making it to the end of this race. Kareem still at minus 0.1. Lolly minus 0.42. He's going to have to do more work. Razin on minus 0.21. More work to do there as well. GB is in the best position out of the top 5 in terms of fuel. Ben, no real surprise, minus 0.77. It's not looking good as Concept 7 going through the right-hander We're highlighting for a moment, unless he's got some kind of problem and was going quite gingerly, but Concept 7 is absolutely fine. He carries on. While I'm here, can't really believe I'm saying this, and I'm not going to tempt fate just yet, but 40 laps of the way in, we still have all 20 drivers. We haven't had a single safety car. As Ben says, quite rightly, I am not saving enough fuel.
Could this be a record? Could this be the first time all 20 drivers make it to the end and we don't see Bernd Meilander? Get your Creator Series facts out there. We need to do a fact check there. Lolanoba, though, the hunted has been hunted as Razin and Tim arrive on the scene through the bus stop chicane. 4 laps left, and they are 5 seconds, the two stoppers, away from Cream 17. Ben, the alarm bell's definitely starting to ring. He knows he is not saving enough fuel, and maybe we'll just have to give up on this assault and leave Kareem and Razin to dice it out for the race victory. And the Ferrari, I think, might be a bit of a sitting duck here as we go up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Ben still so close, examining the rear geometry of the Racing Bulls car. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion we go. What order are we going to be in? By the time we get to the braking zone of the Lake Combe chicane, Lolanoba all the way over to the right-hand side. You will not pass me on the inside, he says, but it's going to be the long way round for Razin. Does he have the straight line speed? No. Does he have the grip from those medium tyres? Absolutely yes, but give him the cold shoulder there by the Scarlet Ferrari car. Excellent defensive work. Round number 1 goes to Lolanoba. Round 2, though, as he's wide coming out of Malmedy, goes the way of the Season 5 champion. Down the inside into Rivage. Second place goes the way of Razin Chai. Ben, will he get squeezed out around the outside of No Name Corner? Yes, into the gravel, into the grass, bit of debris, flies up as well, and a little bit of a jink over to the side also to boot. Now to the outside of Pouon. Does the Ferrari again give him the space? Ben off the road for the second time in as many corners. It's got to be the inside of the Fagnes chicane. This time he should get the job done, and does. Lolanoba putting up a fight, got a little bit aggressive there, a bit of argy-bargies going on, and maybe some afters as well.
Frustration boiling over quite possibly for Tiamat Marduk as they headed in towards Pouon corner. That was very aggressive. Staff battles behind. Safso's made his way past Chappers for P15. Razin's just got another warning. Ladies and gentlemen, in fact, make that his second warning of the race. So it's even Stevens in terms of the track limits between our top two. 4.5 seconds the gap now in this Grand Prix. Kareem 70 now under 0.1 laps of fuel to go. Just needs to save a little bit more. Razin, though, is on equally level pegging with those medium tyres, with the surplus of grip he's had. Doesn't need to lift off. Well, can lift off nearly as much, excuse me, because the grip will do the rest of the work for him.
This is going to be close. 8/10 on the previous lap. That's not enough for Razin Chai. 4 seconds with 3 laps to go. Needs to be 1.3 seconds a lap faster, and that will give him an opportunity to pass him into the bus stop chicane at the end of lap 44. Is this starting to swing the way of Aston Martin and Kareem 70? Ben still very much with major fuel issues. Might have to consign himself to 5th place if he ends up crawling over the line come the end of lap 44. GB still in this fight, but does have older tyres, 4 laps older than Razin, 5 laps older than Tiamat Marduk, as emphatic in Riccio 3, joined at the hip for the entirety of the Belgian Grand Prix, debating 6th and 7th once again with grid jokes, very much for company on his much fresher soft tyres.
It's going to be such an interesting end to this race. Who's actually going to save the fuel? Who's going to run out? Just so close to the finish line here at Belgium. 44 laps, all 20 drivers might well still be in this race and will end this race, completing the race, which is unbelievable. The safety car now cannot emerge, but for what I think might be the first time in God knows how long, maybe even ever, in the Creator Series in a single race. That's just how crazy this has been, but it's opened up such a superlative strategy war with just now 2 tours to go. The gap is 3 seconds. The fuel situation is dire. Tom, we are in for a firecracker.
We are indeed. He's caught him on this lap. Gap dipping under 3 seconds with 2 laps to go. Razin just needs a little bit more, eking as much performance out of himself and out of his Racing Bulls car as he possibly can. Going to be taking liberties at this point. Do you take the 2nd place or do you push for that win? You can see the carrot being dangled of the Aston Martin in the distance. Tiamat Marduk is continuing to rollick along behind, pushing the RB hammer and tong, with GB just in the background, also still keeping both of them very honest and ready to pick up a podium if indeed what we expect happens and Tiamat Marduk runs out of fuel somewhere around the last lap of this race.
Also got to say, credit to Razin Chai. He's done extremely well with the lift and coast as Kieran McGinley and TK have been hard at work studying every single fuel trace of every single one of these drivers. Razin nearly back equal in terms of fuel, however, does have apparently no ERS. Kareem minus 0.04 in terms of fuel. Even Stevens in terms of the fuel situation, but Razin is going to push as much as he can to be in DRS range, to pile on the pressure on Kareem 7T. If he has the knowledge, everyone's an engineer in the Creator Series, for every single chap. If he knows that Kareem 7T's fuel situation is similar to his, if he just gets to track position, it could be 2 from 2.
But look at this. Scotty Designs, by the way, has picked up the fastest lap of the race. I don't think that's going to be eclipsed either. He's down in 19th. But that is a lovely bit of a fastest lap to put in his back pocket. 1.2 seconds, everybody. Call Bradley Walsh because the chase is on here for the last lap. The gap is going to be under 1 second. Cream just a little bit dicey with fuel. Tyres also going off. There's been a long old slog on this final set of tyres. 31 laps will be the magic number to get him from when he got rid of the soft tyres to the end of this race. 1.4 seconds, burning some battery down the straight in the run into the bus stop chicane, and it is 1.2 seconds at the start of the last lap.
Entertainment extravaganza here at Spa-Francorchamps. A race of many firsts. But here on the last lap, could it be a first win of the season for Kareem 7T? Could it be a second win in 2 for Rasin Chai in season number 12? Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. We have just under those 7 kilometres to decide the race winner here at Spa. GB all over the back of Tiamat Marduk, who's trying to save all the way through. He's still 0.45 down. It's an easy move for GB into Lecom. Through goes the Alpine driver. Razin within a second of Kareem 7T. Both relatively equal on fuel. Goodness me, Tom. I hope you're not biting your fingernails off just yet. This is going to be tantalisingly close.
Well, within half a second now, look at this, and Kareem 17 might be thinking the worst could be happening. A last lap pass for Razin Chai. Had so much more speed on the run down into Pool, and you saw Tim Barnett there as well. Still just under half a lap down on fuel, but he lifted so early into the Lecom chicane. Lolonova's going to be fancying his chances of getting back up into P4. And I think, Ben, we're hearing from TK himself, is now out of fuel and running on top gear fumes from a challenge from a few years ago. But out of Corporal Frere we go for the final time. A third of a second the gap. Season 5 champion chasing down the Season 9 champion. Will it be a first win of the season for Kareem? Will it be Razin Chai going double trouble in Saudi Arabia and in Spa? Ben desperately clinging on to 4th place as well. I don't think Razin's got the straight line speed. Kareem has it covered into the braking zone. Hold the inside for the final corner, and he just have to pull gears up to the line. He's found the fuel formula just, and by half a second as Razin actually runs out over the line. Kareem 7T, your victor in Spa. Razin from GB. Ben just holds on because Lolly also has run out of fuel at the last lap. Infratic would just come home in P6. I think he was very deep there into the bus stop as Grid Jokes and Dak Gavin's getting stuck in with Ricky, who's defenseless, but he does keep hold of 7th. Penalty for Grid Jokes, drops him behind Vince. But Kareem 7T, at one stage he was looking second favourite behind Razin, but didn't quite, the RB driver, have enough to go back to back.
Well. The first race, it was a slobber knocker, but a slump for Kareem 7T. At a street circuit, parallels to last season in so many ways. Equal cars are back on. He only needed 1 race to dust off the cobwebs. Race number 2, he's a race winner again in the Creator Series. But will that curse come to haunt him? The winner of the Belgian Grand Prix has never gone on to win the championship. But if that's the pace he has after only 2 seasons of learning no racing line, what could be?
What could be indeed. Concept 7 has left the session. I can't quite remember what position he was in when he crossed the line. I believe he did score points. I think he was around about P10. So just keep an eye on that one. We'll have to shuffle everybody up from a certain spot. But what a race that was. No safety car, real strategic battle, a real fuel-saving battle as well. We thought it would just be Ben running out on the last lap. As it turned out, Lolly pushed it too much. Razin pushed it a little bit too much as well. Didn't quite have enough in the tank to steal the victory into the final braking zone, to nab it away from Kareem 17. After the disaster class of Saudi Arabia, well, it's been pinpoint perfection here in Spa-Francorchamps. Takes the victory and kickstarts his season after the blow of Saudi Arabia.
We had to highlight it, didn't we? We just had to highlight it, even despite the beginning of the race, where it could have all gone so wrong so quickly. Played the patient game, trusted in the one stop, trusted he had the fuel to compete, and in the end he had all of those things. What an end to Spa-Francorchamps as we have Gong racing. But in other news, cleanest driver is Lolin Ober. He takes home an extra point for that cleanest driver award. So congratulations to him. Fastest lap goes to Scotty Designs. Absolute legend. Kareem 70 though wins his first race of season number 12. It's 2 different winners from 2 as Rasin Chai has to settle for P2. GB in P3 with Tiamat Marduk, Lolin Ober, Infratic, Ricky 03, That Guy Vince, Grid Jokes, and Rhino 83 rounding out the top 10, but it was actually Concept 7. So Rhino 83 was P11 with Matt 212, Adam Sarnason, Tukey, Chappers, Safso, Super Noodle Bagel, Mango, Scotty Designs, by the way, and Brandon Miles rounding out our order. Every single driver finished. What a time it's been.
What a time it's been. All drivers finishing a race, TK. What's going on here? I mean, that just shows you everyone managed to keep it on the tarmac. None of this shenanigans with strategy, and that just caused